welcome back to another video on my channel. It has been a hot minute since I sat down and filmed a YouTube video. I had no plans on taking a break, especially one as long as I did end up taking. I don't really have that much of an explanation, just a lot of things were going on in my life, a lot of things have changed, and I just kind of got out of the groove of filming. Now obviously we are in a new space. This background definitely isn't going to stay like this because I don't think that this looks very nice and I don't like it at all. But for now, we're just gonna deal with this until I figure out something else. A few things that I need to address before we get into the video, however, are that the windows in this space that I'm living in and filming in are extremely thin, and there is a very busy road outside. So if you can hear cars, wind, anything, it's that. Also, Toast is still here, my dog. He's the only dog living here, but you can still probably hear him moving around and whatnot because this is not a very big space. Because I haven't filmed in a while, I'm feeling extremely awkward sitting down talking to a camera, but I'm going to do my absolute best because I do want to get back into this. But because of that reason, I chose today to talk about a topic that isn't going to give you as much information and isn't as long as my normal videos, but I hope that you guys enjoy it nonetheless. And with that all being said, let's get right into today's video. The case that I'm going to be talking about today is one that honestly stumped me. I can't say that I've ever heard of a case even similar to this one ever before, and that is because this case isn't really a case at all. Now, you might be listening to this and be super confused, but by the end of this, I promise that it's going to make sense, and you're gonna be like, why did that even happen? Why is this even a thing? So yeah, let's get into it. September 19th in 2017, a tragic earthquake would hit central Mexico. This earthquake was absolutely tragic, taking the lives of over 200 people and demolishing dozens of buildings. Now, as if this wasn't devastating enough, this earthquake also took out a building in the country's capital, and this building was a school. During the demolishing of this school, at least 30 people had died, and majority of those people ended up being young children. Tuesday, when this earthquake had hit, and it was the middle of the afternoon, meaning that children were in school at this time. So when people started to hear that this earthquake had struck a school and that kids were in the school when the earthquake struck and the earthquake took the school out, people started rushing to that school to try and help in any way that they can to get the kids out of that building and get them to safety. Now, because this was a specific thing that really struck the heartstrings of everybody who heard about it, I mean, how could it not? Everybody was coming out to try and help and do what they could to get the kids out of this school. Volunteers, the military, police officers, random civilians who just wanted to help showed up at the school and started to dig. They had all been digging for around 24 hours when news started to spread that there was a young girl stuck underneath the rubble who was actually alive. It isn't exactly clear who made the first report about the girl being alive in the rubble, but they used these like thermal instruments to detect like human life, and that is how they discovered her located underneath the rubble. They also brought in dogs who barked, which confirmed to them that there was in fact a person, a child nonetheless, stuck in the rubble underneath this building. Soon, news started to spread about this, and that is when Televisa, which was the country's largest TV news network, would report on the girl. The news reporter had relayed that the news had come from the leaders of the rescue team, and this specific reporter was the only reporter that was allowed on the scene around this area. And the only reason that this reporter was allowed on the scene again is because this was the biggest news network in the area at that time. On this news broadcast, the reporter reported that a 12-year-old girl had been discovered underneath the rubble of this demolished school. The reporter said that they were able to detect the girl's presence by using these thermal detectors, and that rescuers were out there trying to make contact and help her out from underneath the building. They said while talking and communicating with this girl, the young girl had told them that she was 12 years old and that her name was Frida Sofia. However, they were not allowed to disclose her last name at this time, obviously because she was underage and things along those lines. but he just basically said that the rescuers were in contact with this girl and they were doing everything they could to get her out from underneath the building without harming her. The same reporter who had originally reported on this case showed up again to interview some of the rescue team. Now, the rescue team would go live on television and they would talk about the 12-year-old girl who was trapped underneath the building. One of the rescuers said that he himself had actually talked to the little girl. He said that yes, she was under the rubble, so obviously the communication was faint and you couldn't really hear her loud and clear, but he did confirm that this young girl had told him that her name was, again, Frida Sofia, sorry. On the Thursday, which was 2 days after the earthquake had happened, news outlets like New York Times and things worldwide started to come out saying that rescue teams had found a young girl alive under the rubble and that she was stuck under there, but rescuers had come out saying that she was well, she was alive, she had all of her vital signs, and she was in good condition. On top of that good news, it was also reported that 5 more children had been located in the rubble of the demolished school and they had all been found alive. At this point, like I already mentioned, this girl's case had taken worldwide news. Everybody was sitting on the edge of their seats, hoping that this young girl would be rescued and she would come out unharmed from this whole ordeal. And everybody was invested in this, just hoping for the best. It is stated that rescuers had been searching the area when they spotted the girl on the Wednesday, buried in the debris. They shouted at her to move her hand if she could, which the girl did successfully, and a rescue dog was sent in to confirm she was alive, which the dog did confirm. Others had reported again that they had spoken to the girl and that her name was Frida Sofia. This case caught so much attention that Frida Sofia, the little girl's name, was trending at that time on Twitter. And again, it was Thursday, and it was assumed by this time, early in the morning, that all of the workers had now, or the rescuers, sorry, had now been informed of the girl who was trapped underneath the building, and that their main focus was to get her out unharmed and alive. Now, obviously, there would have been other people hurt or injured around the property, but they assumed that they had found all of them, and their main focus was to be on this 12-year-old girl who was stuck underneath the building alive, but there was no way to get her out. Now, obviously, if she had been under there since the building had collapsed on the Tuesday, she would be running out of time and she was probably scared, and obviously the main priority would be to get the child out of that area alive and get her to a hospital where she could be treated for her possible injuries. Because of all of the damage that had been done by the earthquake, it was extremely difficult for news reporters and whatnot to get actually up close to the scene. But this story was so worldwide popular, everybody wanted to know what was going on, that almost every news station in that area were down there at the time. People were coming from all over the place to report on this specific case and talk about the young girl who was located underneath the building. And majority of these news stations were getting first-hand interviews by the rescuers who were actually on the scene, either while they were leaving or while they were coming. They were just always talking to the people who were actually able to get on the scene, rather than those who were just able to stand back and kind of talk to a camera, I guess, like I'm doing right now. Thursday morning, a Navy officer was talking to the reporters of Televisa, and they said that there was still a child trapped underneath the building, and they weren't quite sure how they were going to get her out, but they were doing everything in their power to get this girl out from underneath the building safely. However, then, later on, another Navy officer came on Televisa and said that 11 children had been rescued over the several days that they had been searching underneath this building. 16 children sadly were found passed away, and 7 adults had been found deceased in the rubble of this building. There were also a 7th body that was discovered on the following Sunday, and that body was of an adult. Now, this obviously is extremely confusing considering the entire world at this point was sitting on the edge of their seats waiting for them to give some update on this 12-year-old girl, Frida Sofia, who had been trapped underneath the school. However, this Navy officer just came on the TV and said, nope, there's nobody else under there. There was 11 children rescued, 19 children discovered deceased, and the last body that was discovered was an adult, and never mentioned anything about the 12-year-old girl who was trapped underneath the building. Wasn't confusing to you enough? A Navy officer, the same Navy officer, got on TV yet again and said that they had absolutely no knowledge of this 12-year-old girl who was trapped under the building. They had no knowledge of her name. They had known nothing about her. They weren't using all of their efforts to try and save her because her existence wasn't a reality. It was also now being stated that the thermal camera that was originally believed to have been what detected the young girl under the rubble was in fact lowered into the rubble, but it only detected blood, and that the only person who was still listed as missing was a school employee. And since Frida Sofia's story had surfaced, only one body had been removed from the rubble, and that was the body of a 58-year-old woman, which was believed to have possibly been the fingers that the rescuers had seen. This obviously really threw everybody for a loop, because the entire world was sitting around waiting, wondering what was going to happen to this young girl. And now they were coming out saying that she doesn't even exist. Then came out stating that the rumors of this young girl being trapped under the building were sent out by Marines who were told this information falsely, and that there was never a 12-year-old girl trapped underneath the rubble. So apparently, doubts about this girl's existence started right away immediately. There were reports put out by the school asking for families who still had people missing to come forward to contact police and whatnot so that they knew who they were looking for, and it had been 12 hours before Frida Sofia was discovered that anybody had come forward. Nobody had reported their child missing, and obviously that is a huge red flag. I mean, if you had sent your child to school one day and there was an earthquake and the school was demolished, you would be in contact with whoever you could get into contact with saying that your child was still missing, and that was never a thing in this case, allegedly. Later make an apology statement saying that they never meant to spread false news. The entire search and the news reports on this young girl lasted for a total of 30 hours before the entire world was struck with the shocking news that 12-year-old Frida Sofia did not exist. There wasn't really any theories that happened in this case. People just kind of accepted the fact that there was a mistake made and there was nothing about this that seemed fishy to them, and they just moved on with their lives. And honestly, it could be nothing more than that. It could have been just a mistake that was made, and the media heard about this and they ran with it, and it spread worldwide because obviously that's a very captivating story, and that is all that had happened. Or it could have even been like a mass hysteria type deal, which I guess would be the same thing as the media running with a false story. But I can't be the only person who looks at this case and feels like it seems a little bit fishy. I don't really have much of an explanation as to why I feel this way. I don't really have my own theory, but I did see somebody post online that they think that there's a possibility that Frida Sofia was actually an alias and this wasn't the girl's real name, which would have been why her family had never come forward, you know, asking about her or talking about her, and that maybe after they realized that they couldn't save this little girl, they decided to just say it was all fake to avoid the entire country going into further devastation. Now, I know that seems a little bit far-fetched. There's a lot of tragic things that happen every single day that the news and the media and the government doesn't protect us from. However, I just think that the fact that this is an entire case and the whole entire nation, not even just the nation, the entire world was involved in this case, and they're just gonna come out and say, never existed, not real. Like, I don't know how so many people could mess up so bad that they think there is an entire person that doesn't exist. It just seems a little bit fishy, but maybe I'm thinking about it too hard. But guys, that is gonna bring us to the end of today's video. It feels good to be back. Hopefully next time I'll have a better filming setup. I think that it might even be blurry right now because the sun is coming in from this way and all ways. So I'm gonna try and find somewhere else to film so that the lighting can be better. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to comment down below what you'd like to see in my future videos. And don't forget to subscribe and turn that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.